Hi, my name is Angel, and I do not want to write this message, but I do want to speak about my truth and my story and why I do what I do. So, before I even start, know that it there's a lot of really bad stuff. So, it could trigger some people. Um, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I mean, I'll be tactful or what have you, but I've earned these scars, and it is why I am what I am, and why I have the passion and desire to serve in such a way that can help people that have lived the same kind of life, because you're not alone. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been through some crazy shit, and we can help each other. So, um, I had a pretty traumatic and violent, extremely abusive childhood. One of the first things that happened to me is I I was told I fell, but I fell or I dropped or whatever, and I smashed my head, and I got a bubble between my brain and the brain tissue or something. Then the next, when I was about 18 months old, I had my thumb cut off and sewn back on. When I was almost 2, I just a couple months later is when the fire happened, and my face caught on fire, and my hands and all that good jazz. Get comfy. um, and that was really traumatic. I had to stay in the hospital, and I couldn't have my mom or my family around, so then there I wasn't getting the attention babies need. I couldn't be held, and I wasn't supposed to live, and I should have lost. Didn't have any hair or anything like that, and so by the grace of God or whatever you want to say, I was blessed, and I was healed quite nicely. My lungs are scarred, and my stomach is scarred because I swallowed and held the fire. So I have actual pretty significant physical things going on, that has affected me, not only mentally and emotionally, but very much physically. And I think that that's how everybody is, because our mindset really affects our physical attributes, how we show up, what we're doing, you know what I mean? So, um, um, there's tough things that people, don't want to talk about, but it's the realities. I was severely sexually abused starting around 6 months old or so, and that was pretty really bad. It was every day, and it was by multiple people, and it progressed to some really bad other stuff that's all ugly. It's really ugly, but just bad stuff. And it was people who should have been taking care of me and protecting me was putting me in these situations that benefited them, and they too were doing the same things. But yeah. So I was really close to my mom and dad, thankfully, but my dad worked all the time, all the time, and he had a really bad temper, like Glenn, head for the hills, because it's not gonna be good. And my mom had mental disorders really bad, and so she would become very violent as well. And just because she would remember things differently, like one time I came home from running to the corner store, and she just started punching me in the face, saying that I had lied to her and this, that, and the other thing. But it was all in her head. It wasn't real. So, I was, at a really young age stealing my brothers and sister alcohol and whatever drugs and things like that. But like, my brothers used to give me stuff and and all that. So by the time I was 8, I was already an alcoholic. I was ditching school to go to my friends and steal her mom's alcohol because her mom was never home. And yeah, we ran amok over there, and I was just a little kid, man, and getting drunk all the time, and it was bad. So in that, that was just the name of the game for for a long time. I just did not like this reality, and it was anything to get out of it. It was tough. It was tough growing up, and my only getaway was drugs and alcohol. So I started doing methamphetamines. I do not remember the first time I started doing speed, but I started that pretty young, and I was gone. I mean, like, real bad drug addict by the time I was like 12. Like, sneaking out and, all these things. And that's when I started getting tattoos, but understand tattoos wasn't the same thing for me then. It was, I don't know. It wasn't like in a rebellious way. It really wasn't an art way, because I kept cutting on myself, and so I didn't want to leave those types of scars. And so instead of doing that, I did tattoos, and I didn't want to be like everybody else. Like, I didn't want to look like everybody else, because a lot of these people who had hurt me look so normal, and I didn't want to look like them. I knew that tattoos and piercings would set me apart, and it did. So I love tattoos and arts and stuff like that. It really helped me. It helped me. It helped me express my pain in a beautiful way where I could. Anyway, so my mom ended up getting sick around all that same time. I was about 11-ish when I found out she had cancer. And it spun me out really bad watching her die, and I just went head first. I could not deal with anything. I had to leave this reality. So I dove even further into drugs and all that stuff. Sorry, Bucho. So when I was running with the wrong crowd and, all that good jazz, but then I started getting to a point that, I wanted to be good because I love my dad and my mom so much, and I didn't want to hurt them anymore, I didn't really realize how much I was hurting them until my mom got sick, and then I was like, oh, I can't be part of that, right? So I started going to school and doing what I was supposed to be doing, and stopped doing drugs and all that stuff. And we were all sitting downstairs one night and watching TV, like my whole family, my brothers and his kids, my dad and everything. And we're sitting there watching TV, and I got a phone call from this guy that I really, really, really liked. He was my first boyfriend, and I was in love. And he calls me up one night, and my dad didn't like him. He didn't want me seeing him, and this, that, and the other thing. And he tells me, Angel, why don't you meet me at the school tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. Meet with me, and we'll hang out, whatever. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I just want to be good. Like I'm trying really hard right now to be good. Well, the next morning, I got a phone call from my girlfriend Danielle, and she's like, Angel, go turn the TV. And I did, and there was Robert. He had murdered this girl Mickey's father. Actually, it was Robert, Juan, and Mickey who had killed Mickey's dad because she didn't approve of Juan and Mickey's relationship. Robert always said he was going to kill my dad because he didn't approve of our relationship. And that scared the shit out of me. That really messed me up with the type of people that I'm attracted to, or I was like, holy cow, that's crazy. So that messed me up pretty bad. And yeah, so then not too long after that, a lot of my friends were, we were running with gangs and things like that. We didn't really have much of a choice. I mean, I guess you do, but I didn't feel like I did. And I had, friends killing friends. And, my friend Pete, who was actually my cousin's ex-fiance, killed my friend Scott with a baseball bat. And it was over drugs. Pete thought that Scott stole his drugs, and Scott was like a good kid, like football player, and and we were all like really good friends, but we were still young, so this was the beginning of everybody like falling apart, killing each other, whatever, going their separate ways, because everybody was so drastically different. So anyway, that sucked. And it just continued to go that way. One day, we came home. It was on a Sunday. We came home from church, and I was outside. Everybody was outside. My nephews, my dad, everybody. And a girlfriend of mine, who I found out later was the one who set me up for this, she was like staying outside, and she was talking to these guys or whatever, and I didn't know them. And she was, Angel, come here. She calls me over, and two guys jumped out of the car and grabbed me and threw me in the car. They took me to someplace. I think it was Stockton. That's where I was dropped off. But anyway, and they locked me in a train car, and they did really bad things to me, which super sucked. And so a few days later, I was missing, and a few days later, they dropped me downtown Stockton, and left me for dead, basically. And this guy came up. I'm guessing he was a kid, probably about my same age, and a little bit older, whatever. And he wrapped me up in a blanket or shirt or whatever it was. And there was a group of guys that was scary as hell. And he wrapped me up, and he was like, nobody touches her. Then I wake up the next day, and I woke up the next day in my girlfriend's bed, and I didn't understand really why I was in her bed. Like, how did I get here? I didn't get all that. And and I was in a really bad way. And my dad comes in, and he's remarried by this time. My mom had already died, and he remarried, and it was awful. Anyway, so he walks in, and he says, So Judgment Day has come. Judgment Day has come for you. That was pretty devastating because, you know, in his religion, he believes that it's better for a woman to die than to have premarital sex. So basically, it was like, it was terrible. It was terrible. So I ended up, you know, took me to the hospital and all that stuff, and I was really in a bad way. I got hospitalized and I had to have surgery. And they told me that I could never have kids because of the damage. And that devastated me because I wanted to be a mom really bad. So I just kind of spun out, you know, I just kind of didn't really see what the point was anymore. And I had already felt like that for a long time. And then my dad moved us to, oh man, Buto. My dad moved us to Texas, and that was tough. You know, the first time I had met my stepmom, she took me into the bathroom and knocked me around. Literally the first weekend I ever met her. And that was after they had already been married. I did never meet her before they had gotten married. So that was a tough one because my dad and I were pretty close. You know, my you know, he has issues or whatever. Everybody does, you know, but I was pretty close to my dad, and he was all I had, I felt, after my mom passed, you know. So yeah, I experienced a whole different level of abuse out there that's still really hard for me to talk about or even think about. I mean, my stepmom hated me, and she would say the most volatile, disgusting things, you know, like, my dad's a good man, and, you know, he's made mistakes, whatever, but he's never done anything like, I don't know, dude, like, she accused me of trying to be weird with my dad or something. Boy, that fucked me up. And she beat me all the time, and she hated me. She called me names, and she just was disgusting. That one's a hard one to still talk about. It's hard. There's so many things, and my dad allowed it to happen. So that is another head fuck, you know. They were so abusive to me that they almost ended up killing me, which wasn't the first time. We had problems in California that, you know, the family was under investigation due to the abuse and all that stuff. Then he moved us to Texas, and then I had all, you know, it's bad. And I ended up going to foster care, thank God, because of it all, which was really actually good because, I mean, I was in and out of like foster care since I was probably about 10, and it wasn't always really great like that. There's really scary ones out there. Some of them are like terrifying, but then like later on I got into some pretty good ones, and it helped me like realize what, you know, good is, you know, like coming home and having cookies made, and, you know, and being loved, and, you know, like, not saying my parents didn't love me, they just know how to act right, you know. So that was cool. But I ended up taking off, of course, because I couldn't handle it, and drugs, I was still totally messed up in my head, and so I took off and got into staying in the drug scene, and I ended up meeting my first ex-husband, and he's he's not a good guy. Super abusive, super violent. You know, he's broken my ribs and like he did. Exhausting. But of course, that's gonna be attracted to because that's the kind of life I lived was violent men. You know, so of course I'm attracted towards violent men. When I was about 17 years old, I chose to, I didn't want to be on drugs anymore, so I started working on that. I didn't want to do that anymore. Now, I'm throwing that in, just kind of all these things were happening at the same time. So when I was about 17, I met Jason. I'm trying to get out drugs. Now, he's a crazy, hardcore, in and out of prison on drugs and all that stuff. And so that was a nightmare. Then I started going to school. I became a CMA and a CNA, you know. So that was really cool because I wanted to be a psychiatrist. You know, I wanted to work in that field. But I was still living, I moved back to my dad's property, and I was living in a little tiny trailer, like on his property. I got up on my feet, and then I moved out and I got into my own place. I had an apartment and, you know, had my own car and all that stuff, and I was doing good. And I foolishly allowed Jason to be part of my life. I don't even remember how I did it. It was dumb, so stupid. And I moved to Washington. I left everything I had, moved to Washington, and I got right back into drugs because of Jason. Moved back to Texas, and I was living out on my dad's property again, in this little tiny piece of crap trailer, and I'm back into the medical field and stuff. And I was also working in construction with my dad. One day on the way home, my dad stopped at the Justice of this Peace and forced me to get married. I did not want to get married. I didn't know I was getting married. I had paint all over me. And but he told me basically like marrying him or I'm gonna disown you type thing. So shotgun wedding. I didn't want to get married. That was hell. He was extremely violent. Extremely violent. It was horrible. And then you know, life went on and you know, and I was doing all these other things. But so then I ended up a few years later, it was about 5 years later actually, I was still married to him. He was in prison still, and he went and signed the certificate. Well, then I ended up meeting Christopher, my kids' dad, and yeah, so got Jason to divorce, blah, blah, blah. I ended up getting pregnant with Sterling and being with Chris, which that was a whole nother hell that I went through. Complete domestic violence, running for my life. You know, he tried to fucking kill me. He sent people over to hurt me and my kids. The police found him once in the attic with 2 full cans of gasoline. He was high as hell. His eyes were like, boo. 2 things of gasoline, and I had a restraining order on him. Well, I mean, the courts put it on him because there was so much abuse and I couldn't get him away. But anyway, then I pursued it. But, and he would tell me all the time that he was going to kill me, burn the house down, and make it look like an accident. So, you know, I was in and out of women's shelters. It was bad. And there's not a lot of help, and people make you feel like you're crazy. And I have these babies that I'm trying to take care of and protect, and this man is absolutely going to kill me, and it was just hell. And, you know, it was just hell. I eventually did get away, finally. That's a whole nother exhausting long story, but, you know, I was very much in love with him, and who I thought that he was and how he showed up, because he's a chameleon. So he altered who he was so that he could manipulate me. So who he was that I fell in love with, I was fully in love with. And I wanted the relationship to work. I wanted to be with my kids' dad. And I wanted a family, and like I wanted security and all that, and I kept believing his lies right at first, like, I love you, all the things. But, he was cheating on me all the time. And he was financially abusive. My kids would be starving, no food. Like, I drove a really nice car always. My house was beautiful, always. But I didn't have any food. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any way to take care of my kids in any way. But Chris would have like motorcycles and the newest phone and top of the line gear and just whatever he wanted, but he did not care about us. He did not. And I ended up learning, and I was really messed up in the head, and I've battled with mental disorders myself. My mom has them, my brother has them, I have them, and I've been in and out of mental institutions because I become sometimes very violent. I haven't in a while, but it's still that tendency, and I become very suicidal. So I was sitting through the computer one day, and I found a video of my husband and my ex-husband and my friend, my very good friend, in my bed, and it really hurt. And I went through this whole mental breakdown. I just didn't understand, like, how could he do that to me? Bleh, all these things. And like, why am I not enough? Why am I not enough? Why can't you just love me? Why can't we just do this? So anyway, I spun out, went into this whole, self-worth thing, and yeah. But as time went on, and as I was very serious about leaving and all that stuff, because you get manipulated, you get pulled back in, and then I remembered who I was, remembered everything, and I'm like, I'm out, I'm done. So that was a tough one too. I mean, he still has kidnapped my kids and done all this crazy shit, but so with all these demons and all this crazy shit and all this, I've had a really hard time in life with like how to show up and how to be, because I was a really hardcore drug addict, and I was like, I didn't feel like I had any worth. Like, what am I gonna do in this world? How am I gonna show up? What am I gonna do? And I started studying, like quantum physics and science and all that stuff, and getting into the yoga and everything, and when I went to Hawaii a few years ago, and I ended up meeting Alawa and Kea and Joa, and I know her as Deva, Simone, and all these other people. Anyway, so when I ended up meeting them, and I had this experience out there that changed me fundamentally. And it was absolutely due to yoga and meditation and plant medicine. but it helped cleanse a lot of the pain and set a lot of the demons aside so that um, I can do my life's work. I still have a lot that I have to go through, but I've gone through a lot, and I can show up different now. I've learned how to change that communication within myself, within my head of like, I'm not enough, or, I'm worthless, or whatever. My self talk was so bad and so toxic. Um, what I did was I started to listen to frequencies, the 420 hertz and things like that. So that it would change the vibration. And I would listen to like Tony Robbins and now Greg Braden and Dr. Joseph Spinda and these great minds to get me out of the way I was thinking, because you run out of resources when you do it on your own. You have to get new information into your head. You can't rely on just what you know. So I've been a lot of different people, and I've done a lot of things, and I've had a lot of things happen to me, and so I feel like I feel like I've been blessed with those things so that I can help other people. I'm very fortunate that I was blessed with certain qualities that was able to bring me to the space that I am now. Of course I have still a ways to go, right? That's forever. Everybody can always get better. But man, I'm like a million times better than who I was. And even like 5 years ago, seriously. And it's like if you haven't, every year is like something else significantly huge changes where I'm able to show up differently and that I have a new respect for myself and a new love for myself. And it's a gift that I've been blessed with because I have this utter and complete desire to become better, to do better. And, it starts with thought. What we put in our mind and in our mouth affects who we are. It starts with thought. When we start changing that vibration and changing that communication that we have with ourselves, that loathing self-taught, which we can totally do. Like you start getting spun out or whatever, you have to throw yourself into something else. Throw yourself, change the way you're sitting, change the way you're thinking, change the way you're breathing. You have to physically change. For me, I had to pack myself up, run to Hawaii, and that was huge for me, and live on the beach for like a freaking month, and completely submit to, doing all these following these rules and regulations, which I don't do. I mean, not like it was like rules and regulations, it was yoga, but it was like getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning, go do yoga, and then do this, and you're on this schedule, and I'm like, but I did it because I needed the change. If I didn't do that at that point in time where I would have died. I would have killed myself, or I would have died due to sickness because of my mindset. My mindset was killing me. I mean, it can happen. So we have the power within ourselves to change all of that, change our self-talk, change our DNA, change how we show up in life. I've been diagnosed with all kinds of like just weird shit. I've been diagnosed with lupus. I've been diagnosed with like degenerative disc and arthritis. But because I don't take my medications for that or anything like that. My lungs are scarred and I have asthma, and I still go out and I still run, I still hike, I do all these things. I have an emergency inhaler, but like I don't even have 2 full functioning lungs. That's real. So it, I mean, physically we can control this body. We can control this life. We can. And it starts with thought. And plant medicine is really big too for those who, choose to do that, because it certainly helped me. But my point is that I understand so much more. And I hope that people are inspired to do and go down the path and keep working, keep striving, keep going. Like, you can do anything. And life can be bigger and better than you ever fucking imagined. You can have things in 5-10 years from now that you didn't even know existed because you changed the way you thought. Just some simple little things. And it's totally possible. So, anyway, so much love, so much peace, so much happiness, and seriously, love. Just do it.